Call to order the Finance Committee meeting on April 13th, 2026 at 6:30 p.m. We have two items on the agenda this evening. We have a transfer request in the amount of $807,524 from Economic Development to MEDC funding for the FY 2027 operating budget. We also have a transfer request in the amount of $150,000 from Economic Development to MEDC funding for the Economic Development Toolbox. I will begin with order number 26-100-9716, which is the transfer request in the amount of $807,524 from Economic Development to MEDC funding for the FY 2027 operating budget of MEDC. And I'll begin by reading the letter submitted by the mayor. Dear Councilor President Ossing and councilors, enclosed for your review and approval are two transfer requests for the Marlborough Economic Development Corporation, MEDC, in the amount of $807,524 for its operating budget and $150,000 to continue funding the Economic Development Toolbox program. Included for your review is the FY 2027 operating budget and narrative from Executive Director Meredith Harris. I'm grateful that our strong local hotel tax revenue enables us to invest in economic development initiatives in our city through MEDC. The Marlborough Economic Development Corporation is consistently recognized as a leader in business development, support, and the attraction of new investment across Massachusetts. This success reflects its ongoing commitment to bringing new businesses to the city while strengthening community engagement through initiatives that support local small businesses and host special events that drive interest in Marlborough. Executive Director Harris will be available at a future meeting to answer any questions you may have. Sincerely, J. Christian Dumas, Mayor. And with that, I'll bring up Executive Director Harris. If you want to go through your slideshow. And Linda? Yes. And Linda Martins, thank you. Yes. Thank you so much. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for having us tonight. A little different from years past. We're going to kind of go through a slideshow. This is our 20th year celebrating MEDC.
Thank you, Council.
Is that better? Thank you. We're going to go through a little slideshow. MEDC was created in 2006, so this is the 20th year anniversary, so we thought it might be a good time to take a look back and see kind of the ROI on the funds that have been given to this organization over the years that we've been around. So I'm going to do my best here with the... There we go. Okay, so a little bit of a backstory, and I'm not going to read every word. You guys obviously have this in front of you, but the reason we were created, and the next slide kind of goes through the story as well, but in 2006, many of you might remember, Fidelity left the city in what felt like overnight, took with them about 5,000 jobs from the city, and that impact was felt pretty deeply by our small business community across the city, whether it was Rock's Barbershop, folks not coming in to get haircuts, or Hunt's, folks not coming in to get gas. So a bunch of folks, much smarter than myself, came together and said, hey, we got to make sure that this doesn't happen again. And how do we get some boots on the ground to make sure that we're talking to the business community, and that if anybody is going to leave like this again overnight, we'll at least know about it, and we'll have an opportunity to either save them here in the city or work with them to face their challenges. So we were created at that time with the goal of stabilizing the residential tax base, and we do that by increasing the commercial tax revenue that comes into the city. Well, it doesn't look like our chart made it onto the screen here, folks. Sorry about that, but here's just some tax rate insights to look at how we're doing on that. Marlborough continues to have the lowest residential tax rate over the 13 surrounding communities. Marlborough has the lowest CIP tax rate out of the 5 surrounding communities that have a split tax rate, and Marlborough's average single-family tax increase was the lowest of the surrounding communities in the last 2 years. You can't see the chart that we have here on our slides, but I can tell you that since FY16, the past 10 years, that the increase for the average single family home was about 2.6, 2.7, 3.9, 3.2, 2.59, 1.29, 3.52. In FY24, we all remember there was a negative 3.32% increase, 3.2%, and then the 10.1%, which was last year, which was the anomaly that we all remember from last year. So here's kind of our milestones over the 20 years. We didn't pick each year to showcase something, but just some of the things that stand out in our minds of things that we've had a direct hand in. 2006, again, that's when Fidelity leaves, prompting the city to create what you might remember as Marlboro 2010. It was at that time that we were still membership-based. In 2011, that is when Marlboro Economic Development Corporation was established. That was via the special legislation that we often talk about. And we talked about the master plan that was brought to the table, not implemented by this council until 2013, but that's when the Economic Development Master Plan was created, was in 2011. 2012, Boston Scientific chooses Marlboro. Marlboro Hills, which is now home to Quest Diagnostics, Cytiva, GE Healthcare formerly, and you also have the Hilton Garden Inn over there, the Avalon. That whole concept of live, work, play was created through that development. 2014, the downtown rezoning takes place, creating the Marlboro Village District. TJX came to Value, they called it Value Way. 2016, the Hospitality Mixed-Use District was created, that's Apex. GE Healthcare opened, Apex came to fruition, which I have to make a note that Apex, because of the cooperation of this council and the city together, the first hotel was actually open from 18 months when the shovel went into the ground, which was a huge kudos to the city of Marlboro to be able to help them get that up and running in such a short period of time. And then the toolbox, it wasn't created, it was created in 2015, but 2016 is when it really started to gain some traction. We got some people applying, so that was really exciting. 2018, again, with your help, the city entrusts MEDC to purchase the Facile lot, which is now home to Alta French Hill. You all know that that was many years of work that went into rezoning the area, purchasing the land, finding the right developer, which we now have a really beautiful development up there. 2019 was the launch of the Marlboro Commuter Shuttle. That was something that we created as a pilot program that is still running to this day. But we've been able to fund that through grant dollars and then state earmarks to close that last mile gap, which pre-COVID was a big topic of conversation of how do you get folks from the Southborough train station that are coming in from Boston and or Worcester. They can't get from Southborough to Marlboro, so how do we help them bridge that gap? 2022, BJ's brings their headquarters to Marlboro. They built that new parking garage over there. We were able to help them with a TIF to bring them into the city as well. There's new construction. 2023, Moderna and Sartorius, those were the two headlines for that year. Marlboro made investments in the launch of the Marlboro pop-up shops, which is a phenomenal program going into our 4th year this April. And then 2025, we were excited to see that the State Crime Lab chose Marlboro as their new home. So just a quick, brief kind of, visual on what's our strategy, how do we do the things that we do. It's really broken into 3 buckets for us. Business attraction and retention. A lot of what we were just talking about falls into that bucket, whether it's large business, medium-sized business, or small business. How do we put Marlboro on the map? How do we market the city and make sure that folks that are outside of Marlboro know that we're here and that we want them to also join us in being here and bringing their business here? We also have the hospitality and sports tourism bucket. A lot of that is based around the fact that we have the largest number of hotel rooms outside of Greater Boston. We also have the New England Sports Center, which is the largest indoor skating facility in North America. So we see about 2 to 3 million visitors per year that come through the sports center each year. So we want to make sure that we're getting those folks to stay in Marlboro, eat in our restaurants, stay in our hotels, and make sure that that industry is continuing to thrive. And then downtown development. I would, kind of expand that to not just be downtown, but more of neighborhood development. French Hill became a big part of that when we were looking at the neighborhood business district. Basically, how do we make sure that the neighborhoods have a good community sense throughout? So this is how vacancy rates would be kind of how we track, how are we doing from a commercial, bringing commercial folks into the community. You'll see back in 2012, the vacancy rate was at a high. The office vacancy rate was at 34%. But we were able to kind of bring that down through efforts with company moves and expansions, TJX, Boston Scientific, Quest, a few that I just mentioned. Once those folks came in, we filled about 2 million square feet of space in those first 5 to 10 years. And ever since then, we've been able to really kind of keep it stable at that. The overall rate is hovering around 10%, and the office vacancy rate has been about 15 for some time, which is pretty healthy. It means we have room for folks to come in, but we don't have a huge vacancy that we're staring in the face like we did in 2006. So here's some numbers that we put together. I will say too, I think some of these are conservative. The $1.1 billion in company investments, that is just the companies that we've been able to partner with the council on TIFs. So there certainly have been other companies that have come to the city without a TIF, but we were able to quantify $1.1 billion in company investments. Again, that's Moderna, Sartorius, Cytiva, BJ's, Quest Diagnostics, Boston Scientific, any of the folks that had a TIF, that we were able to use that tool to bring them into the community. Again, that's the same with the 7,000 new jobs through those larger companies that have come in. We've been able to add $55.7 million in new growth applied to the tax levy. Through our toolbox efforts, 44 small businesses have been assisted through that toolbox fund, that's the grants or the loan fund. 492 jobs either new or retained through that loan fund. And then directly through our office, we've been able to apply for and achieve $17 million in grants that have come back directly to the city to help with infrastructure improvement projects. Thank you.
Thank you, Meredith. Thank you, Linda. I'd like to say, too, you have a wonderful team that's supporting you this evening, wonderful team that I strongly support. As a reminder to the council and to residents, too, that the economic development is funded for the city of Marlborough through the local option hotel tax for the room tax. Just wanted to put that out there as well. And I was very happy to see that you did your diligence trying to keep the budget at that 2.96%, increase from the previous year. With that, I'll open it up to the, if you're all set, I'll open it up to the finance team.
Thank you.
If we have any questions, and the rest of the full council. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
No, I'll go to council.
Sometimes people like to wait. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Meredith. Thank you, Linda, and other staff members sitting in the audience. And for all the councils that sit here and previous ones, they know my feeling about this being a corporation versus a city department. But the 2.96%, thank you for trying to keep your budget within that. In the letter you wrote, Meredith, you wrote about business growth and attract new investment to the city. What applications have been received over the past year?
I'm sorry, what applications?
I'm dealing with allergies. What applications have we received in the past year? You had noted applications currently in the pipeline, underscoring the continued need for additional funding.
For the toolbox, I'm going to let Linda answer that. We're talking about, those are applications that we get for that toolbox fund.
Toolbox, okay.
Mhm.
Sure.
And
So-
we did provide you guys a sheet too of any of the grants that have been
Yes,
provided for
I
this
have it
year.
right here,
And,
yeah.
and just a reminder to council, that will be the second part of the agenda, too. We'll be doing the funding for the toolbox.
Yeah, we can hold off on
Yep,
that. That's
thank you.
fine. So it's the toolbox that you were referencing.
So that's the, so this year we had, Tackle Box was one of them. We had the Coffee Loft was another one. Linda, who am I missing?
Spill Books and Wine,
Okay.
Maha Juice Bar, Race Performance Motorsport Shop and Mentoring Center, Arrow Coffee Roasters, and Classic Pizza.
Yeah, and I just was in Classic Pizza Saturday, and they're doing dynamic business with that
Yes.
toolbox help, so that was good. The city planning services, I ask that almost every year. What was offered over the past year for planning services?
So the forward plan.
The one that, we're going to
Yep.
be discussing, I believe, in urban affairs. Any other help to the planning board through that funding, that 50,000?
Not to date, but we would
okay.
be happy to do that if that's something you'd like
Yeah,
us to
it's
do.
something that always concerns me. We're one of the very few communities that doesn't have a city planner, or town planner if it was a town. The business retention and expansion, any help outside, such as from the Chamber of Commerce or other businesses? Because you've heard me ask before, of asking why you can't get to being self-sufficient without using tax money that comes into the hotels and could be changed by legislation to go to the residents. So the question is any help from the outside helping you right now with like the chamber or others helping with business retention and expansion?
So we've got a great relationship with the chamber. I think it's actually gotten better over the last couple of years. Michelle does a phenomenal job over there. But one of our line items through business attraction retention is workforce development. And we work directly with the chamber to host an event each year, a career fair, career expo. At the Solomon Pond Mall, we actually this year brought together 6 different school districts that came in. We had 9 different industries that were represented, company reps that, we worked together to make sure that we filled the panels together. We brought the students in from the different schools. Really a phenomenal day. We had about 170 students that came through. But that's just one example of what, working with other groups to bolster our efforts.
So that 88,750 represents some of that work you just mentioned?
Yes.
Yes.
At the business retention. And let's see, the only other questions I have is related to let me get back to the beginning of it where the questions were. Thank you for the slideshow, and my question was, and by the way, Mr. Chair, if I can make an announcement, the Personnel Committee will be meeting after the posted 6:45 PM time, so if anyone's here for personnel, please hold on. We'll be meeting soon. We posted 6:45. I never thought we'd get this done in 15 minutes, but that's fine. The grant dollars you mentioned, is that just the bus that you're getting grant dollars for, or do you have any other grants that we're getting through MEDC?
No, we do a lot of grants, actually. So Lindsay actually applies for the cultural district grants, anything that you see money that goes into the Downtown Village Association for the Food Truck Festival, other events that they use those funds for. Probably the largest grants that we go for are the MassWorks, or now called Housing Works grants. That's where the bulk of that 17 million you saw came from, whether that's to do the Main Street project. There was a Cimarron Drive, one Cedar Hill. So we are the office that applies for and hopefully receives those grants when we apply for them.
And my last question before final comments, any idea how we can get and attract business to downtown and the mall? Because both seem to be slowing down, and that's just not Marlboro. I know it's throughout the world, country. You see malls closing up left and right, and I walk downtown to the right of town City Hall here, and you'll find businesses are closing, and it's hard to see that, but could you explain what could be done to prevent that?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, I think downtown's doing better than it has in past years. I mean, our efforts through the pop-up program, we saw 2 of our pop-up users that actually ended up in brick-and-mortar stores downtown. So I think continuing those types of efforts. We also were able to provide Pico with a toolbox grant to help them get up and running. Lost Shoe, similar, I know that's many years ago at this point, but help them purchase the equipment that you see inside of their business. So I think all those efforts that we have been doing in the past, I think we should continue to do those things. Our biggest challenge downtown, it happens to be landlords. So if you have a landlord that is in control of a property that doesn't share the same vision that the city or that necessarily MEDC, it's difficult to help incentivize businesses when the landlord's not on the same page. But we continue to try to bolster those relationships, nurture those relationships, and offer the tools that we do have in our tool belt, which I will say is more than our surrounding communities. Nobody else has the types of programs that we have access to, which I think is what gives us a leg up in that sense. The mall, I think, is a different story. We're not trying to attract business to the mall right now. The mall is under new ownership that has a different vision for what they want to do with that site in the next couple of years. So we're really trying to work closely with them, on the new zoning that was implemented a few years ago to think about future opportunities, what they can do with the entire parcel. But the goal there is not necessarily to bring business to the mall, but to help the folks that are there stabilize, and to help the new owners realize their vision for the long term.
Thank you. And as you know, the city council's here to work with you as well. The TIFs are so important to get business into Marlboro. Tax incentive funding is so important because they get a break to come into the city. I can look at the mayor right now, and he knows we're very happy to have the crime lab, which we were in competition with another city, but we offered a TIF, that being we, the city council. which brings me to where I stand on this. And I would really appreciate the work you do. You're great employees, all of you. But I prefer to see this I'd rather not have it as a corporation, but as a department of the city of Marlborough. So we as city councilors, when we visit our constituents, can justify the $1 million we spend a year on economic development, which is, and don't take offense to this, a lot of money compared to any city or town in the state of Massachusetts. This is $1 million, and as a city councilor, I worry about the west side of the city. We need a fire station. Could have some of this money gone there? We need a school, but that's not as much what the hotels are causing as an issue, but the fire station. And the elderly. We have a counselor at the other end of this floor, Counselor Vital. I'd like to see some of that money go there. We have $2.3 million in this account right now, and I understand that your budget was very clear. You're very transparent. I appreciate it, but I prefer it to be under city rule. And I've mentioned that to one of your staff members already. I've mentioned on this floor. I see a benefit to saving money if we bring it in-house. And that's my comment, Mr. Chair. Thank you for allowing me the time to question and comment.
Thank you, Councilor.
Chair.
I'm going to go to Council Vital and then President Austin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Over the last, 5 to 10 years, I've seen numerous recognition for MEDC in the Worcester Business Journal, in the Boston Business Journal, newspapers, just about everywhere. And, I'd like to think that the model that we have in this city is we may have a budget that's up there, but we also provide an awful lot more than what other towns and cities have. And I think I know the answer, but I'll ask it anyway. Have other cities come to you and said, how do you do it? Do you sell the Kool-Aid because we need some in our city?
Yes. It was actually becoming a joke at MEDC a couple months ago that we should be charging for the services. I spend a lot of time at other communities in the evenings going to their EDC meetings. I was in Northborough this past year helping educate their Board of Selectmen on why TIFs are important, how they work. So to answer your question, yes, we get calls all the time from other communities.
Big ones?
Yeah, Framingham, when they were setting up their model, which is very similar to ours, they literally called to ask if they could take a look at the playbook. And we're happy to help. We don't want to give away all the secret sauce, but we do understand that our model, again, which was a brilliant model way before my time, has gotten very high recognition throughout the Commonwealth.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. President, President Austin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So a couple things. First, on the budget submitted by MEDC, 2.96% outstanding. I'm hoping the mayor can do something similar. I will point out that we are the envy of all the surrounding communities that have planners. And I've spoken with those planners in the other communities, and they all want what we have. All right, it is very clear. Councilor Norm and I are diametrically opposed on this issue, which I understand, but I will tell you, if these 4 individuals were working for the city and we had to fund all the benefits that the city has to pay, this would cost a lot more than what it costs to run this outfit right now. The value that the residents get for this particular group, MEDC, is outstanding, and it shows based on the taxes that are being charged and the development that comes into the city. So I wholly support the budget, and I hope the Finance Committee would give a favorable recommendation to support the budget as well.
Thank you, Mr. President. Councilor Ficillo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you guys for being here.
Thank you.
Just a couple of things, and I think President Ossing really hit the nail on the head when he said the value that the residents get. Right, I think there's this misconception that because of the way this is funded in some way that the money isn't going to residents. It couldn't be further from the truth. This budget that we're approving tonight, right, is directly going to impact folks because you are a public-facing organization despite being a corporation. I can't think of an event that's happened in Marlborough in which you guys weren't a part of, right, in some way, shape, or form. I know for myself, anytime I've needed to talk about economic development, anything, I can just come into the office and talk to you guys. I drop in all the time, whether or not you always want to see me there, right? But the point is, you are accessible, and you are public-facing, right? You are business-facing. everything that you do in this community, and Councilor Orem said it himself, you are transparent in how you operate. So I have nothing but good things to say about the value that you bring to this community, to our business community, and to our residents. You know, I'm in full support of your budget tonight. I'm also in full support of the toolbox, right? It's a statistic that I hadn't heard before that I thought was fantastic. I know we're doing the toolbox next, but 44 small businesses that you've been able to help through this program, almost 500 jobs, small business jobs retained in the city of Marlboro, when those could have went online or could have went to another community, right? That's incredibly impactful stuff for our residents, especially for some of our younger residents. I was down in the pop-ups last year. I saw kids that I went to high school with who were starting small businesses in Marlboro in this pop-up, and someday hopefully have a brick and mortar store in town. So just so grateful for what you do, and in lieu of other comments, happy to keep the discussion going, but would move to approve the transfer request in the amount of $807,524 to fund MEDC's fiscal year operating budget.
Thank you, Councilor Fitzgerald. Motion's been made. I will second that to approve order number 26-100-9716, a transfer request in the amount of $807,524 from Economic Development to MEDC funding for FY 2027 operating budget of MEDC. Any further discussion? Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Thank you for showing up, and thank you for the overview of the budget. I thought that was the best thing I've seen you guys do yet, describing what it is. So your funding basically comes from a specific tax, okay, which is the hotel tax and that. When times are good, there's going to be lots of hotel activity, so the buffer gets big. If we get into lean times, that may shrink. So stabilizing it the way you are is actually great, because I'm not sure what the future will bring as far as hotel traffic. I'm hoping it's going to continue to be fine. And the work that you've done with the small businesses and the big businesses have demonstrated themselves over and over again. You know, the one thing that a city planner would do that you guys wouldn't do is really addressing the housing, because that's not true economic development, right? So if we're going to get a city planner in here at some point in the future, it would have to be some sort of relationship with you and trying to get it to work if we were going to do that. But I think as far as economic development goes, you guys have done an outstanding job. I think that we need to also address housing issues as part of economic development, you know, but that's not necessarily something to be addressed as part of this. That has to be something to be brought up with the mayor and worked on that way. So,
To your point, I think what MEDC does that a planner does not do is business development. You know, planners are not, you know, doing business attraction and retention the way that our force, our team, you know, we're boots on the ground doing business development, which a planner would not do.
right. And, you know, with business development comes a lot of opportunity approach. You know, like, you don't think of what's there, you see what's there, and then you pull them in, you know, so that is a different attitude and approach. For businesses, I think that's great. So, and I think that as we continue to do this, I think we will continue to lead the area with this type of innovation. So you said that Framingham was going to look at our playbook. Are they doing their own economic development organization?
So it's similar. It's called the Framingham Economic Development Council, I want to say. They're trying to emulate what we're doing.
With or without state approval?
Not with the state approval. That's the difference.
That's where I was going.
Correct.
Okay.
That's the big difference.
Has any other municipality gone for state approval?
No, not that I'm aware of.
Okay, because the state approval actually gets the hook into the tax income, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, so without that, your big benefit is that your funding gets approved by us, but is actually separate from us.
Correct.
You know, so that you have your own stream that you tap into.
Yep.
And I think that's one of the biggest benefits you guys have.
The only other thing I wanted to comment was you talked about the hotel, the money that comes in. We did see a dip during COVID. You know,
fancy that.
Yeah, so to your point, during difficult times, you know, we did see that revenue, you know, come back a little bit. And if you look back at our previous budgets, you know, we did respond to that at that time frame. So it can happen.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you, Councilor Doucette. Councilor Navin? Go to Councilor Navin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to try and keep my comments. I know we get the forward plan coming to urban, so I'm going to try and not go too much on the policy stuff that you guys are working on and the successes you've had. I don't know if folks saw an article in the Wall Street Journal this morning that highlighted, unfortunately, a community in Western Massachusetts that is currently contemplating a 50% property tax increase over the next 4 years. And it talks about how it's the canary in the coal mine and how these challenges are coming for a lot of us. I know President Ossing educates us frequently on the need to keep our growth in line, but I can't help but think of that article when I'm listening to you guys tonight. The amount of work that this organization has done to mitigate the tax increases by design, as you noted, but it is an incredible success. You guys are funded by your successes, which is kind of interesting. By your successes, both past, present, and future. You're not off books because this is tax revenue that's coming into the city, but it is awfully close to that, considering the fact that it is designated specifically for you guys. But it's revenue that you are generating directly, and I think that is what makes this so creative and also helps to make it so successful. You guys have just as much a stake in this, not only because, as a city resident, but also because you guys know that the key to your future successes lie in the seeds that you've planted in the past. The ROIs that you guys have highlighted are very clear. We see them on a day-to-day basis. The ROIs are significantly outweigh the $807,000. If we had kind of spent that or returned it to residents, I want to be careful for what of these comments are clipped and sent back to the residents somehow. But by returning $807,000, to the tax rolls, so people could see a marginal reduction versus what we get from investing it in your organization. I think it pales in comparison. And so I think that's incredibly important. Obviously, you have successes, and we all benefit from that, from attracting these developers. The thing that I think is so interesting, the intangible that we don't talk about a lot, is the fact that you guys showed developers, businesses, people who are looking to come to the city, just how serious we are about our economic development. And you show why, right? You don't show that it's economic development for economic development. It's economic development for the benefit of our city and the benefit of our residents. And so that is an intangible that I think doesn't often get quantified. And so I want to thank you for that. The last piece I want to touch on as we talk about the city planner, and Councilor Doucette just touched on this a little bit in your comments as well. You guys aren't city planners. You don't claim to be city planners, and in my opinion, I think the work that you do is just, they're not mutually exclusive, but they are very different. I don't want you guys doing the work of a city planner. We have that kind of debate back and forth when we talk about housing projects that come into the city, but you guys aren't taking it from that standpoint. I have constantly struggled with the fact of bringing a city planner into the city. I would like to see some of those benefits. Sitting on the city council for a couple of years now, the main concern I would have about bringing a city planner in is that they would be a department head. And, Councilor Orm talks about how they would be accountable to us. And I would say that the department heads in this city are very responsive to us, but they are accountable to the man in the corner and not to the people who are sitting around this horseshoe. And you guys have always been very clear that you are accountable and responsible to a large host of entities, the city council included. And one of the things that I think is so beneficial to your budget are those planning dollars that get included in your budget every year. We have not taken as much advantage as perhaps we should, and we should certainly do so and find creative ways to get the answers that we're looking for. My concern has always been that the role of the city planner and the views of the city planner will reflect the person who sits on the fourth floor. And whereas that is a completely reasonable expectation of a department head, as a city councilor who's often looking for a little bit more accountability to the 11 of us, is something that I have a little bit of a concern with. So I'll leave it there. I know we're going to have a lot more conversations about this in the forward plan, but I am not on the committee, but I will be supporting this budget when it comes to the council. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Neben. Councilor Orm.
Yes, if I can clarify myself, I'm not trying to have you as the planning agent. I work for many cities and towns, and they have planning agents, and yes, they're accountable either to the selectman or to the mayor, but we as city councilors also have tremendous input. So the planning agent is not something I'm planning for MEDC. What the cost of the services for rent, payroll, insurance. That's where the cost savings comes in if you're under the city roof, as well as the fact there's other issues that we could look at. I know your responsibility is different from a planner. I've worked with an economic development coordinator in a town that had also a planning agent. So I understand that. I've been around it too many years to not understand it. My concern is that I represent the people that elect me into this seat to determine the best way to spend our money, and I don't see that cost of services. You know, rent alone is close to what, $37,900. I mean, if you were in-house, there'd be savings there in other areas, and most cities and towns don't have 4 people working under their economic development department. So that's what I'm trying to bring out to everyone. I've been around the horn a lot in municipal government, so I understand how it works. And yes, you're doing a great job. I'm not underestimating anything you and your staff have done through the years. I see a better way. I see a better way so monies that come from the hotel tax can help the people on the western side of this city. And it's basically locked in due to legislation that was created before my time here to only allow it for economic development. And someday, some way, when this council may have to change, we'll see that. And we'll see that high-cost items like a fire station, this could have helped. But that's all I want to say right now. I'm not here to debate. You understand why I can't support this, but I want you to understand I appreciate your services. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Motion's been made and seconded. Seeing no further discussion, all in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. All opposed? 1. It carries 4-1. Moving on to the next item is order number 26-100-9716. The transfer request in the amount of $150,000 from Economic Development to MEDC funding for the Economic Development Toolbox. And again, I want to thank Linda very much for the spreadsheet and what Councilor Ficillo said, because hearing young entrepreneurs out there, it's always good to see that growing in America, of course, and of course in the city of Marlborough. I just wanted to read one thing that Director Harris had given us in her letter. So last year, the city approved a similar $150,000 appropriation to support the toolbox. With those funds, MEDC awarded $135,750 in grants to 6 new and existing small businesses, supporting both openings and expansions within the community. MEDC also launched a new grant program designed to assist long-standing Marlborough businesses with equipment and expansion costs. Demand for these programs remains strong, with several applications currently in the pipeline, underscoring the continued need for additional funding to sustain small business growth and attract new investment to the city. To me, that pretty much sums that up, but I will open that up to the finance team for any comment. Councilor Vital.
One of the things we haven't talked about a lot tonight, but I think it's pretty exciting if you think about it, is that some of these companies that we've funded are, not only are they entrepreneurs, but they come from our Brazilian communities, from our Mexican communities, and some of our minority communities. So we're reaching out to those neighborhoods and providing valuable money so that they can start up businesses or improve their businesses. So I think that's something that sometimes gets overlooked when we're talking about the toolbox. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councilor Orm.
Mr. Chairman, motion to approve. This is a fantastic program, and it helps local business. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Orm. Motion has been made, and I will second that to approve order number 26-100-9716. Transfer request in the amount of $150,000 from Economic Development to MEDC funding for the Economic Development Toolbox. Any further discussion? Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I completely support the works of this and supporting the small businesses. And, you know, the benefit to the citizens of the country is that these businesses are upgraded for capabilities, makes it easier for them to do business with these companies. And, you know, basically, it's tough to see this type of structure being done within a municipal budget. So I think that this demonstrates the effectiveness of the Economic Development Corporation. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Doucette. Councilor Vital.
Chair, can I ask for a suspension for these 2 transfers, please?
Good. I was going to bring that up. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Council. Yes, absolutely. If that's okay with the finance team, suspension, well, thank you. Councilor Navin.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I can't believe how supportive everybody is. Giving money to small businesses. What a novel concept. I make the same comment every year, and I'll stop making it when I stop hearing it from people on the street. Linda, you guys do a great job on this. You guys all do. And
Thank you.
the thing it is odd, we don't often hear from people about like random programs and whatnot that the city has, but the comment I always hear is just how easy you make it. That it is quick, that you guys will drive somewhere, you will fill out the application for them, you will help submit it. You really usher it through, and it has had real meaningful change for a lot of these businesses. So kudos to you. It's a great program that I'm happy to support. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Navin.
Can I just
Director
add?
Harris, yes.
Yeah, can I just add to? We talk a lot about the toolbox, but sometimes we don't talk about the loan program either. But I just want to mention the 4 banks in the community that also put money into this programming, not for the grants but for the loans. But DCU, St. Mary's, Avidia, and Main Street Bank are all phenomenal partners with the city to keep the program running. So just want to give them a shout out.
Thank you, Meredith. Motion has been made and seconded. Seeing no further discussion, all in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It carries. Thank you, Director.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Chair, make a motion to adjourn?
Motion's been made and seconded to adjourn. All in favor? We are adjourned at 7:11 p.m. Thank you.
Note,